Welcome to the fourth episode of the BlueCollarBaddies podcast. This episode is sponsored by Blue Collar Grind, badass coffee for hardworking people. Today we're here with Jessi, #1 best-selling Amazon author of The Truth About Being a Woman in Construction. She's also the CEO and founder of Pivot Hire Plus.
Thanks, Haley, for having me on your podcast. Yes, hello all. I go by Jessi, who is currently working in Minnesota near the Twin Cities.
Mm-hmm.
And my first love was welding. Nice. And so I'm just really excited to be here today to talk about that, talk about my journey from welding to construction management to director, and then now CEO and founder of Pivot Hire Plus, a resource hub for women and non-binary who are looking to either enter into construction industry itself, the trades, career changing, and even green energy.
Nice. It's a big journey, like from it's a lot.
Yes.
How did you originally get into welding?
So interesting enough, I talk about this quite a bit in the book, but when I found welding, it was by accident. Mm-hmm. I was actually skipping class because I was a bad kid. So I was skipping class, and a friend of mine, she was taking welding courses at the time, and she was like, "Yeah, come hide out in my class." Mm-hmm. And so, of course, big concrete booths, plastic curtains. It wasn't really hard.
Right.
She gave me a hood, which of course I didn't know what it was, and she had me flip it down, and she struck the arc, and that was it. I was in love.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long from that point before you started doing it yourself?
So skipping class, it took me probably a couple weeks. I started to investigate to understand, like, what are other options? Can I actually do this?
Right.
And I found that there were technical training courses you could take during the day, but also at night. And at that time, because I was already fully enrolled in my traditional high school classes, I enrolled at night, and so I went to work. I took my traditional day classes, and then started taking technical welding classes at night.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then from working up from that to where you are now, like, I don't even know how to ask that question.
Yeah.
What motivated you to move up into the position you're at now?
That's a really good question, and honestly, I don't want to say happenstance because that's not true either. I've always been driven in my own way.
Right.
Ambitious kind of came later.
Mm-hmm.
When I found welding, it definitely opened up some doors because I always considered myself dumb, inadequate. There's a lot of voices around me that weren't super supportive. And so going through welding, there was always kind of this little thought that kept happening, which was like, I feel like I could do more. And so, like, I kept advancing my skills, learning new techniques, learning new tools. And eventually, things would happen and it would push me to the next thing.
Right.
When I started school for construction management, I was in my mid-20s. Mm-hmm. And it was just a lot of things had crashed. Like, I felt at the bottom at the worst. And so I went to school and got in construction management, and same thing happened. Like, I went through different roles as a construction manager, and started exploring options a few years later of, like, could I do an MBA? Well, no, I'm not bright enough. I'm not studious enough. And so, interesting enough, when the pandemic happened, like the start of that, between losing my position and just feeling kind of lost, like, what do I want to do next? Do I really want to go back into GC world or do something different? And so I took a leap of faith in myself and went after an MBA.
Yeah.
And so then again, that opened up new doors. And as a director, I've been learning a lot. And then, of course, being very interested and dedicated to helping build equity for women and for the community, really. Mm-hmm. Pivot Hire Plus has been something, even before the MBA, I was thinking about, but I didn't really fully understand how to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And then that's last year. It was like, all right, we're going to go. We're going to put both feet in. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been busy.
Yeah, I bet. What motivated you to write a book about it all? Just the misinformation out there, basically, or?
I think it was more about visibility. Okay. I know, like, one of my favorite recent stories even is growing up as a little girl. I didn't really see a lot of options. Like, I was hardworking. I worked with my dad as free labor, basically, and so learned a lot, but I never actually saw other women who did what I ended up doing.
Right.
And so relatively recently, actually earlier this year, I was working with Junior Achievements. I did their career day and stood there in front of a room of high schoolers and divided classroom for whatever reason, boys on one side, girls on one side. The boys were super rambunctious, had a bunch of questions, wanted to touch all the leather and the welding hoods and just feel and touch the things that I brought with me. And the
Right.
girls were super quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But then I stood up and I started talking about my experience, and the boys got quiet, the girls got loud. And like the intrigue, the light bulbs, the interest, like I still get emotional thinking about it.
That's
But
awesome.
like they were standing there just having so many questions, and like you could tell they were starting to say, oh, if she can do it,
Right.
why can't I do it?
That's awesome.
And so
We need more of that.
right.
That's cool. I think that feeling is like you just can't even overcome it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest struggle? And I'm sure that there have been different ones throughout your different stages of getting here, but like what's been your biggest struggle so far being a woman in a male-dominated industry?
Oh gosh. There's definitely like two that I reflect on quite often, and I still struggle, like especially with the first one, which is being too much, too something, too whatever, too firm, too soft.
Right.
So that's always been a struggle. And then honestly, the second one is the emotional hardship of being a woman in a male-dominated space. I reflect on a lot of those experiences, like with leadership or superintendents or even men on site, where it was just like, it didn't matter what I did.
Yeah.
It was never good enough.
Right.
And then they still felt like it was somehow okay to get in my face or put hands on me. And it's just like, what in what world does that seem to be appropriate?
Who do you think you are?
Exactly. Like, would you do that to
Golly.
your sister? Would you do that to your mother? Like, the mutual respect that you would hope to see in the industry is definitely not there. And it makes it really hard for women and others like ourselves to feel like they are in a space that is safe, to not mess with their financial ability to take care of themselves, their homes, their loved ones, their ambitions, their business, whatever it might be. So, yeah,
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, so struggles with men, but have you encountered any rough patches with other women on job sites?
Not specifically on job sites.
Right.
I actually had to think about that one for a little bit. Most of the time when I worked with other women, whether it was when I was welding, construction manager, we tended to work well together.
That's awesome.
Sometimes that was just talking to another one of the women here. It was like there were some women who were just so like young and scared.
Yeah.
They had a lot of stuff going on. And to be able to kind of almost semi-bear hug them along the journey. Hopefully it helped. I think it helped in some ways.
Yeah.
So for the most part, like it really did feel like field sisters. Like we really were a sisterhood.
Right.
So I had less issues of that, even though there was one specific instance I talk about in the book, where there were two women that I was welding with. There was definitely some conflict there. But honestly, most of the negative, I guess you would say, behavior I've seen with women treating me or other women poorly has been in leadership.
Oh.
Like higher level leadership.
Right.
And it's funny, I actually just had a conversation earlier this week with a individual about this topic, and they were like, yeah, mean girls, like they exist and they undercut. And I'm like, sitting there listening to this person talk, and I'm like, but you are a mean girl. Like you have a reputation of this. So yeah, so anyway, I guess my message with that is like there are mean girls out there, but there are also a lot of women out there who truly think of each other as sisters.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is like we have to, as women, call each other out.
True.
Like if we're gonna be mean girls, like no,
Yeah.
you need to stop, and here's why you need to stop, because you are adding to the toxic behaviors that men are representing or other individuals are representing on site of, oh, well, if she can be mean to her, then I can be mean to her.
Yeah.
And so I also think it comes back to we need to create more inclusive environments where we support each other, but we also create less of this women after women. Women have to undercut each other because there's only one spot.
Right.
I can only move up if I get this, not her.
Right.
Instead of working together, working together is how we actually drive change and make a huge difference.
For sure. If you were to explore another trade, I mean, you've pretty much probably explored the ones that you want to do already. But is there anything else that you kind of thought about doing that you didn't go for?
So interesting, or I should say fun fact, when I was in high school, one of the things that I was very interested in was actually going to San Francisco Institute of Art. I wanted to be an artist.
That's awesome.
And part of me was like, oh, great, I'll take like the sculpting piece, or like the welding and pull it together.
Yeah.
But I was also much more hard-headed and wanted to get out of the house and create my own stability.
Right.
So I basically went in the direction of just like going into the trades,
Right.
going in and working in environments that were very non-creative.
Yeah.
And so like, I guess if you had to like pull something, it would probably be like finding a path to pulling that creative piece into it. But for the most part, like I feel very fortunate that I've been able to touch so many different things, especially as a construction manager. I got to work on different types of projects and support, different crews in like myriad of ways.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Is there one like specific tool that you just always find yourself needing? Like anything?
My notebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love my notebook. It was like even from the days of welding, like I was always taking notes, like sketching out diagrams, just like thinking through different aspects of processes. And so like even becoming a construction manager, like my office was me.
Right.
Like, so my vest, everything was loaded up and handy dandy notebook.
Yeah.
Like literally walking around taking notes, writing down questions, like to do, I need to follow up. So yeah, even to this day, I have a notebook right here. Like That's awesome. My notebook.
And you wouldn't really think of that as a tool, but it's a major deal to have. Yeah.
It's great for writing books too.
Yeah, I bet. Have there been any like embarrassing job site stories you want to share?
Honestly, no. Like I actually thought about this, and I don't have any. And I think I think it's because I was always so hyper focused on what I was doing, why I was there. The closest thing I could think of was like I would trip occasionally because work boots, and people put stuff on the ground that shouldn't be on the ground.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, not really.
Well, so speaking of work boots, are there any brands you found that? Because I feel like it's a struggle. There's not a lot of women-made things that last long and that work for what we do. So have you found any brands that work for you?
Yeah, it took me a long time. I definitely went through a long phase of trying to find boots that were comfortable, didn't tear my feet up, and I could actually be on for long hours.
Yeah.
Red Wing. I still have my Red Wing boots. I will never get rid of them unless I have to. But yeah, every time I need new work boots, I end up going to Red Wing, which I still have to put inserts in to make sure they fit my feet because I get the logger boots that come up higher.
Oh, yeah. Nice. So, yeah. I've heard great things about them, but I used to work at a boot store, and they didn't have my size when I was there, so I never tried any on.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Well, and it always feels like when you look at different manufacturers, I guess, or retailers, I don't know what the right term is there, but I think it's retailer. When you look at like their female-centric line of boots, it's so limited.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Sometimes some of the projects, like you have to have special, things that are required from just your boot alone.
Yeah.
And so most of the time I would end up getting men's boots, which men's feet are different.
Right.
And then quality.
Yeah.
So yeah, Red Wing is expensive too. So even if you did get like a boot stipend from your work, it might cover part of it, which is nice, but won't cover all of it, which is frustrating. So yeah.
What about like jeans or PPE or
Yeah, so I, again, struggle with this quite a bit, especially as a welder. I used to go to Goodwill.
Oh, yeah.
I'd go to the men's section, get some men's jeans. I would definitely struggle with them either being way too baggy, especially in the lower region, or because men don't really have hips, it's very narrow, and so it was like, there was nothing flattering about wearing them, but they served a purpose, and they actually lasted longer than the like more traditional. I don't know why
we can't buy real jeans. They're
apparently
all stretchy.
Yeah, so it was just like I would go through women's jeans really quickly, whereas men's jeans I would wear longer. But now, like hindsight, and again having a different income.
Mm-hmm.
I really love Duluth and Carhartt.
Oh, yeah.
Duluth especially for jeans because they have like the fire hose line, which is flexy,
Yeah, that's cool.
durable, and your butt's not gonna like
Yeah.
come out. And then Carhartt, I actually have issues with their jeans, but I love like their sweatshirts and their shirts and stuff. They just work really well in different environments.
Yeah. I grew up on a farm, so Carhartt's like second nature.
Yep.
So if you had any advice for someone coming straight out of high school that wants to get into the trades but doesn't maybe have a support system of people telling them, you got this, or how to get involved, what's your advice?
So if I advise, especially for young girls, don't let fear paralyze you.
Nice.
I think that is one thing that I definitely take to heart now. Even like, okay, I founded a business and a director of a big company.
Mm-hmm.
Use the fear as a way to drive and energize yourself.
I like that.
I think that that is the biggest thing, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck. And on top of that, you're going to let other people's voices, other people's messaging direct your path, which is going to give them power and take your power away.
True.
So don't let fear keep you in the tracks. Maybe take a day or two. Oh, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Yes, be afraid. Totally valid. But use that to literally propel yourself to the next thing. And don't be afraid to ask questions and reach out to people. And sometimes you do have to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. And then at the same time, you can learn how to set healthy boundaries in that whole process. So
that's awesome.
That's my 30 cents.
I like it. As far as like future big plans or goals that you have coming up?
2-month vacation where I do absolutely nothing. No, I'm just kidding. No, honestly, like the book has been, that's just been huge in itself. And then we're doing a lot with Pivot Higher Plus.
Yeah.
So honestly, I do want to take somewhat of a step back, just a little bit, to breathe.
Right. Yeah.
To take space, to recharge, because I don't want to burn out. But at the same time, there's incredible work being done right now. We're growing our partnerships. I'm so stunned at how many people have come out and supportive about the book and wanting to get more engaged. So there's not like one specific thing. It's just this evolution of now, with also a huge focus on prioritizing fun and rest.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You gotta take care of yourself too.
Yes, the oxygen mask on first, and then you help others.
So when did it actually come out?
This week, actually, on 9/24, so Tuesday.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So this is like one of the very few copies that have been printed.
Awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How long were you working on it?
About two years, give or take. I started it towards the end of my MBA, actually. Starting to just pull together lots of different aspects of what I was learning and even noticing from behaviors around me in the program. And I guess this is going to be a slight tangent. Part of that was recognizing how limited people's perspectives were on people in the trades and the people doing the work. And even as decision makers, as key decision makers, being able to understand, if we are going to support teams and have teams under us, we're going to manage people, we have to actually understand the tools. We have to understand the processes. We have to understand what they actually need to be successful.
Right.
And the only way we can do that is by bringing them into the conversation. And
super important.
That's
awesome. Yeah.
It kind of pushed it to the surface as a priority.
Yeah. More leaders need that outlook, because, you can't just be like, and expect them to know what you want.
Yeah, you have to make it, it has to be clear.
Right.
And you have to have buy-in. And the only way you get buy-in is through true change management and inclusion, which is bringing those individuals into the conversation. What do you need? What is going to be successful? And that ultimately is going to drive your revenue. You're actually going to do so much better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anything you feel like you've missed out on by not starting out in a traditional job?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think, depending on how you label a traditional job, I think if I'd gone in more of a traditional pathway, let's say I graduated high school, actually got to graduated high school, which I did, thank you, made my way to college and figured out what I wanted to do in college, graduated and had that job, I think there would have been some things that might have been easier in ways.
Right.
Like, I could have financially had different resources, potentially. I would have had potentially less field roughness, some of those experiences that ended up happening throughout my life. But honestly, I'm grateful for having a non-traditional path because, you know, squiggly lines is my story.
Yeah.
But by having that, though, it makes me a better advocate for folks in the field because I truly understand what it means to be there and say, whoa, hold on, I need this. Why don't we have this? Or even as a communicator, how can I better communicate? And that's where I sit.
Yeah. That's awesome. Are there any partners, like major partners that you work with that you have found success with?
Yeah, one of the things that I feel like we've done really well at Pivot Hire Plus is really leveraging the power of networking. I mean, that's something that we definitely spend a lot of energy on when we talk to different folks that we work with. So for just kind of listing a few of our partners off the top, Amanda Lucchetti at the Skill Project does an amazing job with storytelling, really bringing better visibility to the trades, reframing the whole dirty jobs.
Right.
So she's amazing. Shout out to Renee Sams, who also just published her first book last month, buildher.org. And her book is Build Her, Be Heard. So check out those two amazing women. And then we also are working with Minnesota Training Partnership, which are focused on really bringing different resources to the individual, whether they need money for a bus ride, getting hooked up with the right technical classes. And then shout out to Nathan's Drywall up in Canada, who is working on actually doing a fundraising event for kids in wigs. Oh. So it's just, we're building this huge ecosystem of great, amazing humans who really do want to make a difference for the community. So. Yeah. And if you want more, you can always check out our website.
Nice. We could do that. Well, so how did you get, what motivated you to reach out to those people, or did they just come to you, or how?
So actually it was me reaching out, or us really reaching out to different folks. Yeah. It started off, our vision originally started off as kind of almost a traditional coaching where we had recruiting, consulting, and coaching services in-house. But we quickly realized that that was not accessible from a financial standpoint, making sure we had the correct resources to provide. So in a lot of our working through and developing our framework, we're like, how can we make this more accessible? And that's where we flipped it to, let's be a resource hub. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, let's pull those folks together. Let's create that web.
Absolutely.
So the way that I try to talk to our partners, especially new ones, is it's like, we're literally, each of us has our individual strand of strength, and then we're braiding it together to help address those gaps together.
Nice. That's paints a good picture. I like that.
Thank you. I would try with visuals.
You're very good with words.
Thank you. Maybe I should write a book.
Maybe you should.
Good idea.
So where can they find your book?
There are several links. Hold on.
Oh, okay. We'll also link them all down in the description. So.
Okay, perfect. Pivot Hire Plus. My wonderful team and I have a resource hub that we are building to help women in non-binary who are either interested in getting into the trades, looking to career change, or even are looking to get into the clean energy transition, trying to figure out what that looks like. So you can find all of our information at pivothire.coach. So pivot, P-I-V-O-T, hire, H-I-G-H-E-R.coach. Okay. And then Instagram and TikTok, just use the handle at pivot hire. And then, of course, LinkedIn, you can just type in pivot-hire and our stuff will show up.
Nice.
So for the book, so for The Truth About Being a Woman in Construction, you can easily find the digital and print copy on Amazon. You can also find me on Instagram at truth_woman_in_construction.
Got it.
And then you can also find more information about the book at thetruthwomaninconstruction.com.
Okay, nice. All right, well, I guess that's all I pretty much have, so thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys made the drive.
Thanks, Haley. I really appreciate it. This was such a great honor, and thanks for bringing so many fantastic women together. It's been amazing.
I'm glad it turned out the way it has. So.
Yeah, it was good. It's good job. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. All the links and products we mentioned today will be listed in the description. If you're a woman in a blue-collar industry and you're interested in being the focus of the next episode, or you're a small business that would like to sponsor an episode, reach out to us in the link below.